Tudor family rose to power in the wake of the War of the Roses, which was a war between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. Henry VII. Now King Henry VII's first concern was to secure his hold on the throne. On the 18th of January 1486 at Westminster Abbey, he honoured a pledge made 3 years earlier and married Elizabeth of York. They were third cousins, and their marriage unified the quarrelling houses of York and Lancaster. This also gave their children a hugely strong claim to the throne. This unification between the two houses is symbolised by the historic emblem of the Tudor rose, a combination of the white rose of York and the red rose of Lancaster. Henry VII had 7 children with his wife, Elizabeth, 4 of whom survived infancy: Arthur, Prince of Wales, Henry, Duke of Richmond, and Margaret, who married James IV of Scotland, and finally Mary, who married Louis XII of France. His eldest son Arthur married Catherine of Aragon, who was from Spain, thus creating good ties with Spain itself. But Arthur died young, leaving Henry VII's second son, Henry, next in line to the throne. Henry VII showed great grief in his son Arthur's death, and showed great concern for his wife, the Queen. This is evidence that their marriage was a happy one. The year after their son's death, in 1503, Queen Elizabeth, Henry's wife, died in childbirth. And although he made half-hearted plans to remarry, he never did. There is little doubt he felt much grief for his wife. Quotes say that when she died, he departed quickly to a private place, and he wanted to see no one for days. Henry VII died at Richmond Palace on the 21st of April 1509 of tuberculosis, and was buried at Westminster Abbey. He was succeeded by his son, now King Henry VIII. Henry VIII. The new king promptly married his late brother's wife, Catherine of Aragon, in 1509. They were crowned at Westminster Abbey on the 24th of June in the same year. Henry soon married one of his courtiers, Anne Boleyn, the daughter of a minor diplomat, Sir Thomas Boleyn. Anne had become pregnant by the end of 1532 and gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth, on the 7th of September 1533. Anne may have had other unsuccessful pregnancies, none resulting in a male heir. In May 1536, Anne was arrested along with 6 other courtiers. Thomas Cromwell stepped in, claiming that Anne had taken lovers during her marriage to Henry. She was tried for high treason, witchcraft and incest, and she was found guilty and beheaded. Henry married for the 3rd time to Jane Seymour. She became pregnant and gave birth in 1537 to a boy, Edward. At last, Henry had the son and heir he always wanted. Some people say that Jane Seymour was the only wife Henry ever truly loved, and he was devastated when she died. She died a few days after Edward was born, of puerperal fever. 3 years passed, and Henry married wife number 4, the daughter of a German Duke, Anne of Cleves, forming an alliance with German states. Although Henry was reluctant to marry again, but he was persuaded by court painter Hans Holbein the Younger showed him a flattering portrait of Anne, and she soon arrived in England in December 1539. Henry went to meet her on the 1st of January 1540, and some people claim that Henry thought that Anne looked a lot like a horse. He did eventually marry her, although very reluctantly, and reports say that the couple's first night as husband and wife was not a success at all. Eventually, on July the 9th, 1540, the marriage was annulled on the grounds that the marriage was never consummated. Wife number 5, Catherine Howard. Henry called her his rose without a thorn. They married on the 28th of July 1540, just days after his previous marriage had ended. Henry was over 30 years her senior and also very large by now. Catherine grew bored of Henry and never really wanted to marry him. She was eventually arrested and tried for treason against the king, which she later admitted to. She admitted having a string of affairs and lovers, and she was executed on the 13th of February of 1542. Although, before she was executed, Henry was so enraged that he did want her tortured, but eventually he showed some grace and let her be executed, which was a lot better than torture. By the time Henry conducted another marriage with his final wife, Catherine Parr, in 1543, the old Roman Catholic advisors had lost all of their influence. The Queen's religious views were viewed with suspicion. She rowed with Henry about religion, although she later reconciled with the king, saying she only argued with him to take his mind off his painful leg ulcers. Elizabeth I, who was staying at Hatfield House at the time of succession, rode to London to the cheers of both the ruling class and the common people. She was then 25 years old. Her coronation took place on the 15th of January 1559. When Elizabeth came to the throne, there was so much apprehension amongst members of the council, who were appointed by Mary, due to the fact that many of them had participated in several plots against Elizabeth, including trying to forcibly make her marry, keeping her held prisoner in the Tower of London, and also trying to kill her. In response to their fear, she chose her chief minister, Sir William Cecil, a Protestant. She never let anyone challenge her authority as queen. She was very popular, but many people thought that she should marry to produce an heir to the Tudor throne. Risk of death came to Elizabeth in 1564 when she contracted smallpox. When she was most at risk, she named her personal favourite, Robert Dudley, as Lord Protector. In the event of her death, after her recovery, she created Dudley Earl of Leicester in a hope that he would marry Mary, Queen of Scots. Mary, Queen of Scots, rejected him and instead married Henry Stuart, a descendant from Henry VII, giving Mary an even stronger claim to the English throne. Numerous threats to the Tudor dynasty occurred during Elizabeth's reign, one of which was to try and replace Elizabeth with Mary, Queen of Scots. Elizabeth came under pressure to execute Mary to stop any more attempts to replace her. Elizabeth finally was convinced by Parliament that Mary was plotting against her, and she signed the death warrant in 1586. Mary was executed on the 8th of February 1587 to the outrage of Catholic Europe. There are many reasons debated as to why Elizabeth never married. It was rumoured that she was in love with Robert Dudley, and on one of her summer retreats she may have birthed his illegitimate child. However, more importantly to focus on were the disasters that many women, such as Lady Jane Grey and her sister Mary, had suffered from marrying into royalty. Elizabeth never married, quoting that she was married to England and never bore an heir. She died at Richmond Palace on the 24th of March 1603 and never named her successor. The end of the Tudor line